Alright guys, welcome back to the channel. In today's video I'll be talking about the ZPacks Plexamid, which I have right here. I've owned the shelter for about, I guess, 4 months or so. I purchased it back in, I think it was June of 2019. This has actually replaced my ZPacks Hexamid Solo, which I've since sold, but ZPacks did a run of those just a couple of months ago, but those are no longer available on the website. They ran the Hexamid Solo for a long time, and then also the Zpacks. Currently the Plexamid is available for sale online. They took it offline, I think around June or July of 2019, this summer. There were a lot of issues with the stays, the two rods that kind of hold up the roof of the shelter. A lot of people had issues with those breaking. There's been a lot of talk online about issues with the Plexamid. So ZPacks took it offline for a few months, and now they've come back with the upgraded titanium stays, which I'll be showing you guys today. I just got those in the mail, I think about 3 or 4 days ago. If you guys own the Plexamid and you purchased it before November of 2019, you probably have received an email from ZPacks about upgrading your old stays to the new titanium stays. If you haven't gotten an email, send ZPacks an email and let them know, and they will send them out for free. I'll go ahead and put a link down to the email in the description box below, so check that out. Today I'll be talking about some of my experiences with the Plexamid. I'll be going outside and setting it up for you guys, so you guys can get a good look at it. I had a chance to use the Plexamid this summer on a bunch of hikes in different parts of the country. I did a bunch of section hikes on the Appalachian Trail this summer. I hiked through part of Massachusetts and Vermont, and then also through the Whites in New Hampshire. And then I also took it out west to Washington and did the Wonderland Trail and a bunch of other stuff as well. So yeah, we'll go ahead and take a look at it, and I'll show you guys what the shelter looks like with the new upgraded stays. Let's talk about some of the differences in terms of the weight of the old stays versus the new stays. And I'll just give you guys my general impression of this shelter. So with that said, let's go ahead and get into the review. Alright, so first off, I want to show you guys what the shelter looks like with the 2 plastic stays on top. So this is the trekking pole inserted into this little pocket here, and that's what holds up the shelter in the front. This is really what's unique about the Plexamid versus some of the earlier designs that ZPacks has, as well as other manufacturers on the market. The ones that you see right now, these are the plastic stays that ZPacks sent me as a replacement for the original black, I think they're carbon or plastic stays. That actually broke when I was on the Wonderland Trail this summer in August of 2019. If you guys bought the shelter before November of 2019, you should definitely try to get some replacement stays from ZPacks. The ones are currently shipping, like I said before, the titanium ones. We'll show you guys in a second. But yeah, this is what they look like. So you can see that they're basically 2 pieces of titanium. They kind of look like really thin rods that are kind of pre-bent into a curved shape. They're definitely pretty beefy. I would say not quite as thick as a titanium stake, but definitely not something that's going to bend or break on you. So I'm going to go and show you guys how I insert these. I'm going to go ahead and grab my shelter and just pull it out here and go ahead and remove the plastic stays. You want to unzip the front, the mesh, and then you want to just kind of really carefully pull them out and try not to puncture the Cuban fiber as you do that. Notice here on the corners that you have these little pockets where these stays are tensioned, and you also have these little loops on the side. When you pull them out, you're going to see that the plastic stays are pretty much straight. They just kind of bend, and that's one of the issues why they were breaking on some people, just because of the tension, I guess, they were under. This one right here, there are actually 2 pieces of plastic that are wrapped with a couple of pieces of black tape. ZPacks actually has a bunch of these on hand. If you guys are interested, maybe email Joe at ZPacks and maybe he can send you some if you're interested in going with the plastic ones. But the newer ones are going to ship with the titanium stays. So what you want to do is you want to go ahead and insert it like I'm showing you here in the loops on the side. And then you want to feed it into the pockets kind of on the inside of this little triangle piece that I'm showing you guys. And then once you've put it in the pockets there, then you want to go ahead and apply some tension, and the stays are going to crisscross kind of in an X pattern. You want to insert them in the pockets like I'm showing you right here. One thing I did have to do with these titanium stays is I'd had to cut one of them a little bit shorter. I cut off maybe about 1 millimeter or so. I just noticed that there was a lot of tension when I tried to put both of them in, so you may or may not have to do that, but it's definitely something that you may have to consider. This is what the stays look like when you have the titanium ones inserted into the roof of the shelter. They're definitely really rigid, and they definitely provide a lot of structure for the shelter and possibly give you a little bit more headroom, although I say the plastic ones are pretty good when they do function properly. The only problem being that they may actually break on you when you kind of least expect it. Let's just go ahead and look at some weights here. The titanium stays come in at 34 grams, which is 1.2 ounces. The plastic ones come in at 16 grams. The shelter by itself comes in at 375 grams, that's the Beta V version. And the shelter and the plastic stays are 391 grams, or 13.8 ounces. And the shelter with the titanium stays come in at 409 grams, or 14.4 ounces. This is what the shelter looks like. Just kind of give you guys kind of a walk around at the shelter. You can see that it has a really high bathtub floor, which I love. You'll notice that on the sides, it's got guy out points in every corner. So it's got 4 main guy out points in the corners, and it also has one in the front, as well as one in the back. And so that's a total of 6 guy out points. Then it's also got 2 additional points on the back, and 1 on the head and 1 on the foot on either end. So that gives you a total of 10 stakes. You could set the shelter up with 6 stakes, or maybe 8 stakes, depending on how you want to set it up. Generally speaking, I'll go ahead and just take the 10 stakes and set it up with all the stakes. With all the 10 stakes set up, it is definitely a very rigid shelter, so I haven't had it in really strong winds, but so far I've been pretty happy with how stable it is. In terms of overall weight, if you use the 10 stakes, I'm currently using 9 ZPacks carbon stakes with 1 Vargo titanium nail stake. That comes in at 2.2 ounces. So with the plastic stays, the total shelter weight for me, it comes in exactly at 16 ounces, or 16.6 ounces for the titanium stays. One thing I'll mention here is that this is the ZPacks Beta V, which is not currently sold as of December 2019. The standard version, which is currently selling on the website, comes in at 15.2 ounces, which is 0.8 ounces heavier than the version that I'm showing you guys here. The main difference just being that this one comes with lighter guy lines. These are 1.2 millimeter Z line with the line lock Vs, which are not quite as strong, I think, as the standard line lock 3s that the other ZPack shelters generally ship with. I've been pretty happy with the Beta V version, and so far I haven't really had any problems with the line lock slipping on me or anything like that. But I'll definitely keep you guys posted and let you know if I have any issues. One of the common complaints you'll find online about ZPacks is that the stitching is subpar. I haven't really had that issue in my experience. I've owned a number of ZPacks shelters, the ZPacks Hexamid, the ZPacks Hexamid Solo Tarp, other stuff like the ZPacks Arc Blast, and so far everything looks pretty good. This is the front view of the shelter right here, and you can see that I have the 2 storm doors rolled back. This is generally how I'm going to use the shelter. Even if there's light rain, Joe does recommend that you keep the doors open for ventilation. That is a concern that some people might have with the Plexamid. Personally, I've never really had issues with condensation. And matter of fact, compared to the Hexamid, I would say that the Plexamid actually has a little bit more ventilation. One thing I love about the Plexamid is that the roof of the shelter kind of sticks out in the front, and that allows any rain, at least light rain, to kind of drip down the front of the shelter, allowing you to keep those doors open like I mentioned before. Notice here that the front vestibule has quite a bit of room. In the front you could put a pack or wet shoes, anything like that. In the front you have these little metal hooks right here which allow you to hook these storm doors onto the main guy point, and you also have a little line lock which allows you to tension that from the inside of the tent, which is kind of nice. One thing you can do if there is a major storm is you can go ahead and secure this little toggle right here, and that would totally close the storm doors. They do kind of overlap, so any rain that would be going down would run off the front of the shelter. I'm gonna go ahead and show you guys what it looks like inside. So you'll notice that you have this really big rainbow zipper in the front. Inside the tent, you'll notice that you have a sewn-in bathtub floor. This is made from, I believe it's a 1 ounce per square yard Cuban. This is kind of the big difference between the Plexamid and the earlier Hexamid design, is the sewn-in bathtub floor, and that allows you to save a lot of weight. One thing you'll notice here is that you have these little cord locks, and those allow you to tension this shock cord, which would raise or lower the bathtub floor depending on if you're going to be in a big storm or if you want more ventilation. You'll notice here that the bathtub floor comes up really high off the shelter. I would say in the back comes up a good foot or so depending on how you want to raise the cord locks. Here you can see me lying down inside the shelter. I have my arms fully extended and I still have room between my toes and my hands. For me at 5'7", in fact, the shelter is probably a little bit more than what I need. You'll notice that here between my head and the ceiling of the tent, there's still a good foot or so. There's just lots of space in here. You could probably even fit 2 people in here if you needed to temporarily. What I'll normally do is store my pack in the back of the tent right next to me. There's plenty of room for a sleeping pad as well as my pack. That keeps my pack nice and dry. Sometimes what I'll also do, since I've got so much room in the tent, is I'll put my pack underneath my feet. And you can see here that I still got plenty of room between my head and the end of the tent. Here's a quick look at my ZPacks Hexamid Solo. This is from 2013. This is the older model, but you can see that there is definitely a lot less room in here. The bathtub floor is actually not sewn into the mesh, but it actually sits on top of the mesh. ZPacks actually did a run of these, I believe, a couple of months ago. They think they sold about 100 of these on their website. But these are no longer available as of December 2019. I do feel like the Plexamid is a better shelter. It's actually about 1 ounce lighter than the Hexamid Solo, at least the version that you see right here. And then also the bathtub floor is just a lot more protective, and you just get a lot more interior space inside the shelter. One of the issues that I always have with my Hexamid is I would get condensation, and that condensation would drip onto my sleeping bag, which would often be touching the foot of the shelter, or my head would be touching the head of the shelter. With the Plexamid, I don't really have that issue, especially like I said, since I've got so much room. I'm only 5'7", but still I think even if you are a little bit taller than me, you'd still would have plenty of room in the Plexamid. And like I said, I haven't had any condensation whatsoever in the Plexamid so far. This shot here kind of gives you an idea of the room inside the Hexamid. You can see that it is somewhat cramped. My feet are almost near the end of the shelter. Another difference is that the Plexamid utilizes a lighter duty mesh, a thinner mesh. Since the mesh doesn't sit underneath the floor of the shelter, they were able to get away with the lighter mesh, and that helps to save some weight as well. One of the advantages that the Hexamid does have over the Plexamid is that you can remove the Cuban floor, and this would allow you to cowboy camp in case you didn't want to set up a shelter. I do prefer the sewn-in floor on the Plexamid though. I would sometimes get water that would come into the mesh on the Hexamid just because of the way that the shelter is designed. On the Plexamid, you don't really have this issue because the way the fly hangs over the floor so that the mesh is protected from rain. So far, I've been pretty happy with the Plexamid. I don't really regret selling the Hexamid, and I'll be using the Plexamid going forward in the 2020 hiking season. All right, well, that is going to be it for today's video. If you guys have any questions, post those down in the comment section below. I will be giving you guys an update and I'll let you guys know whether I switch over to the titanium stays. If you have the Plexamid, let me know how you guys have been using the Plexamid and whether or not you are planning to upgrade your stays as well. And I'll see you guys in the next one.